Each and every day, enjoy the Simple Six menu at Subway, an entire made-for-you meal featuring one of 6 6-inch sandwiches like the Italian BMT or Black Forest ham, with any bag of chips and a 21-ounce drink, all for only $6. Subway. Eat fresh.
The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. The BS Report. The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Here in New Orleans for NBA All-Star Weekend 2014, I'm slowly making my way through the best 25 players of all time on the BS Report. Here's another one, Bob Pettit. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
You took the 1958 title from my Celtics. I'm going to forgive you just for the interview.
I was a mean man, wasn't I? That's a shame. I hated to see him lose that game.
You went head-to-head against Russell and beat him in the finals.
Yes.
Which you're the only person who could say that.
Well, we were very fortunate to beat them. I will have to say this: they were a great team, maybe the best team ever assembled as far as the NBA is concerned, and we played them pretty well. They beat us in double overtime the year before in the 7th game, and we came back and beat them in 6 games in 1958, and played them 2 more times in the finals, and they beat us both those times. So we played them 4 times in the finals, and they won 3.
And in 58, it would be a much bigger deal today with the way the NBA is covered, but you had one of the best games of your career in the clinching game.
Yes, I did. I played pretty well that night.
50?
50 points.
50 points is pretty good.
Pretty good.
That still translates to 2014.
19 of the last 21 for us.
Wow.
So yeah, I played. It was one of the better games I ever played. And looking back on highlights of my basketball career, that would certainly stand out as one of the 2 greatest nights I ever had and remembered.
What was the other one?
Well, the other was in high school, winning the state championship. Now, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was a big deal. That was, I came from nowhere. I mean,
right.
I got cut as a sophomore in high school, cut from the team, and I was struggling to become a basketball player, and winning the state championship was a very big deal.
That was Louisiana?
Yes.
So it was that was like a Hoosiers? That was the Hoosiers type story that we didn't know
probably
about?
A lot like the Hoosiers, yeah, I guess it would be. We won the largest classification our high school was in, and we won that. So that, and I guess people would say, how does that compare with winning the NBA? But when you look back on it, that was a major deal at 17, 18 years old.
Right. All right. So this is me being a Boston homer right now.
Okay.
So I try to anytime my team loses, I try to come up with an excuse or justify it. 58, Russell sprained his ankle.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a hangnail. I had a hangnail the year before, and nobody said a word.
Okay,
that's a major deal. Can you imagine the pain I went through? And I never complained.
How do you fix
Never
a
made an
hangnail?
excuse, anything. I just played.
Okay, so but Russell was out there. He played.
He played.
I mean, he was obviously a little hobbled, but you don't accept that excuse.
I don't. Why make an excuse? Injuries
because
are part
I'm a
of
homer.
the game.
I just
well,
told
you are a homer, and I can understand that, but. Bill Russell, in my mind, was the greatest player that ever walked on the court. If I had to start a team today from all players that I've ever seen or played against or anything, I'd start with Bill Russell. So I have the greatest respect and admiration for him as a person, as a player. So what I say, injuries are just part of it.
Yes.
That's.
It's really hard to win 13 straight. 13 straight titles would be. You're going to have an injury during one of those 13 years or something funky.
Well, you're going to get beat. I don't think they won 13 straight. I think Philadelphia beat them once in that era also.
Yeah.
So 11 or 13 is pretty good. You don't have to make any excuses for that.
Right. Was Russell the first guy that could block a shot, like do things on the court that you're like, oh, well, that always worked until right now?
Well, let me say this. I'll tell you a little story. I had a really nice hook shot in college, and so Bill came into the league, and I went into the pivot, and he switched off on me, and I took my hook shot, and he went up and caught it. And so
he caught it?
He caught it. So I retired my hook shot right then. I never shot it again. That was it. I never shot it again. He just jumped up and caught it. He was such a dominant defensive player that you had to know where he was at all times. You didn't have to know about other players, but you better know where Bill Russell was, because he was, if you going in for a layup, he was going to block it. But he was not going to spike it. He was not going to knock it out of bounds. He was going to block it to one of his guards, Casey Jones or Cousy or Bob or what have you. And they were off on the fast break. So he was very smart about it.
I wrote a 700-page NBA book. I don't know why it had to be that long, but obviously researching some of the older players and the guys from your generation, your stats were incredible. You had all the resume. Like, I don't understand what happened where when people talk about the greatest forwards of all time, it seems like there's some imaginary cutoff point from, I don't know, basically the Jerry West generation on, but you were in the Jerry West generation. I don't know. Why do you think you aren't mentioned when they talk about Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Bird, all these guys? And people mention you occasionally, but not all the time.
I don't have any idea. I don't worry about it. It doesn't bother me whether I'm mentioned or not mentioned. I'm very comfortable in the career that I had. I felt that I maximized every ounce of ability that I had. I played as hard as I could play every night. I had some success, and
a lot of success.
And so I'm very, very comfortable within my own skin.
Right.
And I don't worry about that. I don't have any idea. I think it's very hard to, and you were mentioning forwards. I mean, you've got to put Elgin Baylor in there. I mean, you've got to put Elgin in there. So
I was going to say Pettit, Elgin. Then it probably goes to Dr. J, I would say. Like, if you're talking about the forward lineage of who the best forward was, then that goes to Bird. And then it goes to Malone, Barkley, and now LeBron and Durant. I mean, I probably missed somebody just because
I'm sure you did, and I'm sure you'll hear about it.
Yeah. But, I mean, is it fair to say you were the first great forward, first superstar forward, or was there somebody before you?
I would never say that. So
well, I'm going to say it.
Well, I will never say it.
Who was the guy before you?
The forwards.
Joe Fulks?
Well, I guess Joe Fulks, but I never played against Joe. I guess Ed McCauley was a.
Easy Ed.
Easy Ed was.
You played with him.
I played against him and with him. I played against him when he was with the Celtics, and I played with him in St. Louis, and he coached me in St. Louis. So I'd have to say, Ed was certainly one of the top. Paul Arizin was a top forward.
Right.
I mean, he was, he could shoot as well as anybody that ever played. So, I would say there was some pretty good forwards, and hopefully I would be ranked fairly well.
What was your bread and butter?
Offensive boards. I felt that that's where I scored the important points that I got. I felt that I scored 5, 6, 7 points a game off the offensive board. Did I have a nice jump shot? Yes. Did I rebound well at the defensive end? Yes. But where I really felt that the thing that I'm most proud of, if I look back on it and say, what did I do the best of what my limited ability might have shown, I'd say the offensive rebounding.
Did you have three-point range? The three-pointer line did not exist.
Did not exist, but sure. I think everybody would have had it. It's not a major. I mean, it's just practice.
Yeah.
Getting out there, but I never shot. I wouldn't shoot from that far, but if I could get 10 feet closer or 5 feet closer, I'd do that. Because you only get 2 points no matter where you shoot it from.
Right.
Man, like Dolph Shays was a great forward in those days, and Dolph would have eaten the three-point line alive. He had that two-handed set from way behind the three-point line.
Right.
So
you played against. Did you cross paths with Mike? I can't remember. What was your first year?
My first year was 54-55.
Oh, yeah, so he was retired.
He was retired, but he came back briefly my first year. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And he was a shadow of the great player that he was. So he didn't. I don't think he even stayed a full season, maybe a couple of months, and then he retired again.
Do you remember the first time you went against Elgin?
No, I don't. I don't.
Do you remember your feeling of going against Elgin and like, this guy's doing stuff that nobody else has decided to do yet?
I don't remember that.
I really
don't know. Of course, I didn't have to play him. Cliff Hagan played him on my team, so I didn't worry about it. That was Cliff's problem.
When did you retire?
1965.
Oh, so you caught Oscar and West.
Oh, yeah. I caught Oscar and West and Wilt.
In early heyday. Wilt.
I played against Wilt the year he averaged 50 points a game. So he was, I played against those guys maybe 6 or 7 years. Bill Russell.
You feel like Wilt overrated, underrated, or properly rated?
It would be hard to find, you talk about players of the era I played, it would be hard to find two better centers than Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
I mean, they were incredible players. And I still think in the game today, there would be incredible players today. Wilt was so coordinated, and he was a powerful man. You never wanted to make him mad. You never wanted. Fortunately, he was very easygoing. You know, he just wanted to be left alone and let him play and score his 50 points. And if you didn't bother him, he never bothered you. He was, but he was a wonderful physical specimen. He was tall, as you know, and powerful, and run and jump and very agile. He was an incredible player.
Your era was a lot more physical than this current era, especially like there was a little bit of a hockey element. Guys would settle, no problem throwing punches. Guys would stay in the game, things like that. Who was your enforcer on the Hawks?
Charlie Scher would have been the enforcer my first, and he was not. He was some teams had enforcers.
Jim Lesketoff.
Well, I'm not. I'm not going to say yay or nay. Jim was a good player. He was a strong enforcer.
He had the nickname Jungle Jim.
Jungle Jim. But a fella on our team was Charlie Scher in my early years that, if somebody started beating on me, then Charlie would step in for me and take care of things.
Because teams would do that, right? They'd like, we're going to rough up Pettit tonight.
Well, you had teams that would beat up on the top scorer on the other team. And as you mentioned earlier, there were a lot of more I don't know if it was more physical play in the pivot, but it wound up in fights a lot more. There were a lot of times that the game would wound up with punches being thrown, and then I started backing up and looking for somebody to grab me and protect me.
Well, you also, it was like, what, 8-team league back then? So you guys would see each other over and over and over again. You'd develop these little
8 teams, and when I first came in, and we played, as I remember, we played the Western Division teams 12 times in the season, and the Eastern Division teams 8.
Wow. And
then we played 20 exhibition games.
Right.
And then we played, if you went all the way in the playoffs, you probably played another 15 or 20 games. So, if you went all the way with exhibitions and everything, you played maybe 120 times a year.
Jeez. And you're riding coach on the airplanes, you're carrying your own suitcases.
Of course we were riding coach, and we rode trains, and we rented cars. And
you're driving your own cars? No.
Well, we rented cars, to move around in and go from town to town. Every once in a while, we'd get to fly on a DC-3, and then later on the Jets came, and we would fly coach, of course.
You'd have to connect like through 3 cities, do all that stuff. Different era. You would have enjoyed the chartered jets and all that stuff.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I would have enjoyed any era. I enjoyed the era I played. I mean, it was, to me, coming out of Baton Rouge and going into playing the NBA. You never dream of that growing up. My ambition in high school was to win a letter by the time I was a senior. So the NBA was so far beyond my thinking that I never thought about it. But I loved the era I played in. It was good basketball. A lot very competitive, and it was and I played against a lot of superstars, so it was a great time.
Are you surprised that there is no NBA team in St. Louis and hasn't been for 40 plus years?
Yes, I am. St. Louis supported us. It was great. We had wonderful fans. I mean, they packed Kiel Auditorium and only seated about 10,000. But they packed it, and they were rabid, they were loud, boisterous, and loved us. And we had a great fan base. And yes, I am surprised that somebody hadn't brought a team back to St. Louis.
Well, it's. I think you and Oscar might be the only 2 guys that you had this whole unbelievable, top 20 all-time career in this city that now no longer has a team. And you think like with the Celtics, Cousy and Heinz and Russell, those guys go back. Those are our dudes. We got the numbers up there. It's like royalty. It's family, and it just kind of sucks that no team in St. Louis at all. Like I'm sure the Atlanta Hawks, I'm sure they respect you. I'm sure they have your number up, all that stuff. But though you didn't play for the Atlanta fans, it's I don't know. It seems unfair.
Well. That's just, that's what happens. I'm sure it's happened in a lot of other sports as well.
Right.
I can't name them right now, but in speaking of Atlanta, they do recognize their heritage in St. Louis, and I appreciate that very much. They still consider us and the St. Louis players as part of their family, and that's awfully nice of them.
When you played, did you have a job during the off season? A lot of the guys did.
Absolutely.
So what'd you do?
Well, I worked with my mother and father in real estate business. I was and in general insurance in Baton Rouge. And we all knew, and that's one difference thing today that we all knew we had to have a job. We didn't make enough money to be able to not work again.
Yeah.
And so I worked in the off-season. I went to work my last 2 years with a bank in Baton Rouge. And the chairman of the board of the bank had called me in, and he said, Bob, I'd like for you to go to work with us when you finish playing basketball. And that was a wonderful career opportunity for me. So that's one reason I only played 11 years. I went back to St. Louis and told Ben Kerner, who was our owner, I said, Ben, I'm leaving in 2 years. I've got a great opportunity. I want to take it, and you make your plans. But I'm out of here in 2 more years.
So you think that was part because of the opportunity?
Yes, I know
Really?
it was. Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, what?
That's
Here you
crazy
are.
to me. No, I mean, just to think of that now, like imagine LeBron James being like, guys, I'm out. I got this opportunity.
It's a different world today.
No, I know.
We all had to work.
Yeah.
And for me to pass up that opportunity would have been foolish, I thought. I just I may not ever get another opportunity, something I really wanted to do like that. So I thought, I'd rather be a young banker than a old basketball player.
Right.
And then I did get injured my last year, my 11th year some, and I'd never been in, well, I'd broken a couple of arms and things like that, but I hurt my knee, and so I said, I did the right thing.
And back then, you didn't have 17 assistant coaches and a training
No,
staff,
had no
arthroscopic
coaches.
surgery, all that stuff.
No, you didn't. And I figured it was a smart thing for me to do, and it turned out I'm very fortunate. I think, and I don't know, I'm sure there are a lot of other athletes retired that have had great lives after their sport.
Yeah.
But I've had as much fun and much enjoyment after basketball as I had playing. And I don't think a lot of guys can say that.
So after you retired, where did you settle?
I settled in Baton Rouge for 5 years and then moved to New Orleans. And I lived
You've been
here.
in New Orleans ever since?
Yeah, 40 years.
Wow. So you must
44 years is to be exact, I think.
So you must have been excited that the Pelicans, but they ended up staying and keeping that basketball tradition here, all that stuff.
I was tickled to death, certainly.
Do they fold you into the team at all? Do they bring you out?
No, but I don't want. I'm comfortable. I'm a season ticket holder. I'll go buy my season tickets, give them a check, and I'll get my tickets, and that's what I want. I don't want to be. I'm happy not being a part of anything with the Pelicans. They invited me down to come and occasionally and sit and I sat with Mr. Benson and Ms. Benson earlier in the year, one game, and they were nice enough to invite me. But I'm happy. I'm doing everything I like to do with basketball, and that's not much.
So how often do you get recognized?
I don't know.
So he's randomly a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
I buy 58 Finals MVP. You didn't have Finals MVP yet.
I'll go purchase season tickets, and I'll go when I want to go, and when I can't use the tickets, I'll give them to somebody. But I'm comfortable with that. I don't want to be calling up when I want to go to a game and say, "Give me 2 tickets."
Right.
I don't want to do that. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I just pay for them and go when I want, and I'm happy. And they're very nice to me. They are. They've taken good care of me when I need something, but I don't need very much.
Right. So 1958, you win the title, and then you went home and you worked at a job all summer.
That's right.
I'm just amazed that was.
But I wasn't the only one.
No, I know. It was everybody.
Everybody.
Who was the guy in the Celtics? Frank Ramsey? He had like a whole business.
Frank
on
Ramsey
the side.
was.
He owned like a whole.
Frank Ramsey was yes.
It actually
he would have been
It
one.
cost him money to play basketball.
Well, it probably did.
What was the most you ever made? Do you remember?
Yeah, I made about $60,000 my last year, 55 to 60,000, and that's the most money in the world. I don't think there were probably 2 players making more. Probably Bill Russell made more and Wilt. I don't know what they made. I don't care, but I would guess that they made more than that. But I was probably the 3rd highest paid player in the league.
This is a weird question, but I've always been fascinated by the 1964 All-Star Game in Boston, when, you guys had basically no players' union whatsoever. You're being taken advantage of left and right. They're making you play all these preseason games and all these different things. You wanted to organize a union. The owners didn't want it, and it finally leads to this All-Star Game in Boston where you guys decide you're not playing until they recognize basic things. You were in that game, right?
Absolutely.
So you're in the locker room.
Absolutely.
And the locker room is split some of the guys want to play. They're afraid of crossing the owners, and some of the guys were like, no, we're not going out there. Which side were you on?
Well, I was not going to vote on it, as if I recall. Going back a little bit, in 1955, I played in the first All-Star game in New York. My first All-Star game. Bob Cousy, and I'm sure you remember him.
Holy Cross, that was my school.
I'm sure it was. Bob had called a meeting of the All-Star players, and that was the player reps to form a union.
So this is 1955.
55. To my knowledge, that was the first meeting of the Players Association formed by Bob Cousy.
In any sport, not just basketball.
Well, I can't speak for that. I don't know. But Bobby had called the meeting, and he was the man that had the idea and led the Players Association formative years.
Right.
He retired in 62 or 63, and all those years after 55, we were not recognized. And Tommy Heinsohn became the head of the Players Association after that. And as I recall, I was his right-hand man Friday, and I was the vice president, as I recall. And so we had the All-Star game in Boston, and it was decided not to play. And we were not going to play the game. Period, exclamation point. We were not, and it was on national television. As I recall, the game was at maybe 9 o'clock at night.
And there was a blizzard, right?
I don't recall the blizzard. They had enough blizzard inside the arena for me. I wasn't worried about what was going on outside.
Right.
And we had a meeting, and there was a large group of players that didn't want to play. But Walter Kennedy, the commissioner, came in the locker room, and he said, I cannot give you a pension plan now, but I'll give you my word. I'll do everything in my power to get you one. Now, you need to go play the game. And basically, there was a big discussion. And some guys said, heck with it, we should not play the game. You know, and now we're 15 minutes to game time. National television, 20 of us sitting in one locker room, dressed, taped, ready to go.
All the best players from that era.
All the best players, the all-star team. And there was a huge discussion. And finally, with about 5 minutes to go to game time, Wilt stood up, said, guys, we got to play the game. The man gave us his word. We got to give him a chance. Let's go play. And that swung it. That closed it out with Wilt saying that. And everybody, a lot of guys reluctantly got up. We went out on the court, took 2 layups, and played the game.
I never knew if the stories was true or not, but the Lakers owner supposedly came in and yelled at Elgin and Jerry that they had to get out there and play the game or whatever, and that the story was that galvanized the locker room.
I don't remember that at all.
I don't know if that one's true.
I don't think the thing that galvanized, to me, in my opinion, the thing that galvanized the solution was Wilt standing up and saying, we got to play the game. Let's go. Not Bob Short, not any of the owners. I recall, I don't remember an owner coming in the league, in the locker room. I understand that there was some pressure from some of the owners against their players, trying to force them to go play. I didn't have that. My owner didn't bother me.
Right.
He never said that. And so I don't know that that's a fact. But I do not recall one owner coming in the locker room. I remember Walter Kennedy coming in and talking to us and saying we had his word that he would do everything in his power.
Your owner was Ben Kerner.
Yeah.
Who Red Auerbach punched before a game once.
Well, they were on the floor.
Did you see that?
Well, certainly I saw it. I'm standing right there. Red Auerbach Bill Sharman had told Red Auerbach that he didn't think the basket in St. Louis was 10 feet. Thought it was not the right height.
He thought it was like 9'11" or something.
Whatever, 11 and a quarter or whatever it was. So Red goes out and makes him measure the height of the rim. And Ben went ballistic because he's embarrassing packed house.
Yeah.
And they're embarrassing Ben in front of his home folks by questioning the height of the basket.
Right.
And he goes out on the court, and he and Auerbach get it. And the next thing I see, they're rolling around on the floor, scratching and punching. It was funny. It was a funny thing.
I think that would have led SportsCenter if that happened in 2014. I'm pretty sure.
I think it would have.
The coach on one team and the owner on another rolling around.
And the funny part is Auerbach used to be Kerner's coach when he was at Tri-Cities.
Right.
Red coach for Ben.
And the other thing with the Hawks and the Celtics was the Hawks had the rights to Russell, traded whatever that pick was in '56 for Easy Ed McCauley, who we mentioned, and then Cliff Hagan. both of whom became Hall of Famers. It's probably the greatest trade that's ever happened in terms of, I mean, obviously I would say the Celtics won because they got Bill Russell, but it's not like the Hawks did badly.
I'm going to ask you a trivia question now. Who was the number one pick in that draft? It wasn't Bill Russell.
No.
Who was it? Do you remember?
Was it Hugo Green?
Yes, it was. Good man. I'm impressed.
It's a 700-page book. Some stuff stuck
it was
in my brain.
Hugo Green, and Rochester picked Hugo Green. Number one. That enabled the trade to go through.
Right.
If Rochester would have picked Bill Russell, it wouldn't have ever been a trade.
Didn't he kind of make it clear like he didn't want to go to Rochester? I interviewed him last year, and he said he made it clear he didn't want to play in St. Louis because there was it was a feeling with the African American players at the time, like, I don't want to go down there.
Yes.
When did you feel like that changed in St. Louis?
I'm sorry, when did I?
Like, just like where it became a more comfortable place maybe for African American players.
I think probably in about I don't know. It's hard for me to say, but we had some wonderful, players that came with St. Louis.
Yeah, Lenny Wilkins.
Lenny Wilkins and Paul Silas and Bill Bridges and and Lou Hudson and all those guys came in and played for St. Louis and were terrific. So that started probably in about 1960 when Lenny came in from Providence and came in as a starting guard.
Right.
Yeah.
Lenny was another guy who kind of fell through the cracks of history.
Well, Lenny,
one of the best point guards of that era.
Yes, he was, without question, and he turned out to be one of the great coaches, which is not surprising because he was such a smart guy and a quality person, and I'm not the least bit surprised that he had a great career as a coach afterwards.
You never thought about coaching?
No, never wanted to.
Never want to deal with
never wanted
the egos and all that stuff, or the pressure?
I just didn't want to coach. I always wanted to do something in the business world or try something, and so that's what I did.
Excellent. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Bob Pettit, this was a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Back in New Orleans with more BS reports. Check them out. Here in New Orleans, saw him in the hallway, had to grab him. Rick Fox, how are you?
Tried to do a trade with you, man.
I know. Well, yeah, but you're like Belichick.
A little bit.
It's only a trade if it's good for you. Yeah, we're in a salary cap fantasy league together.
Yep, and
we're both in the middle.
We're battling. We're battling. We're in the middle, trying to get out. One of us should just agree to hand over the goods to the other, and then the next year maybe return the favor.
After the
all right, I'm for that.
Thing. So you come to Boston, 91.
Yeah.
91?
91. Yeah.
My senior in college, but I was coming back and going to all those Bird games. That was the last year.
Oh man, that was a tough year. That was a tough year.
You had a good team.
We had a really decent team.
Should have beaten Cleveland.
We should have beaten Cleveland. I think we went to the game 7. I think we did. We lost to them in Cleveland in game 7. Larry's back just couldn't hold up. He was brilliant at times, just not consistently that year. And that was the last year of the Big Three. I'm looking on the wall. I can see it, man. Those are good memories. They were my veterans. I came in as a rookie, and I got to experience basketball and how it should be done from a professional standpoint. And I think it fueled my later success.
So you come into that team, you have the Big Three. Then you have the young guys, you and D. Brown, Brian Shaw.
That's right.
And it was like this old school, new school thing. Those 2 Celtic years were really fun. The year before you got there and then that year. Yeah. And each I felt like we could have made the finals. The Cleveland game 4, I think we're up like 4 or 5 or something.
Yep.
We score, Price goes coast to coast, gets fouled, and it like flipped the game.
Great
we
memory,
lost in
man.
overtime.
That's a great memory. You just took me back.
I'm haunted by that play.
I'm getting chills right now because you throw yourself right back into the playoffs, and I was a rookie that year, and so I had every expectation that we were going to be in the finals because I was playing with Larry Bird in the Big Three, and that's what happens for the Celtics. And you mentioned those 2 years. D. Brown was coming up. Reggie Lewis.
Wow,
he was
busting
busting into his
it was his breakout.
His stardom, his breakout, and then he passed away the year after. And it seemed like at that point everything slid downhill after that.
Yeah, you were there for, kind of the cross between the 2 eras.
Right.
The Reggie thing, I just think he doesn't get his just due historically. That was the only guy I saw from that era at that position who would really go with Jordan. Like, he gave Jordan, back me up.
Yeah, yes, he did. He did. I was there.
Gave Jordan a lot of trouble.
He sure did. He was long. He was smooth, effortless, unassuming at times. Then you'd look up and he'd have 36, 38, like you said, against the best. And Mike, and I saw it firsthand. I saw it every day in practice. I looked up to him. and I haven't talked about it much over the years, but he called me literally the day he died. He called me, and I was at Jordan's Furniture. Remember Jordan's Furniture?
Yeah.
I was getting some furniture, and he said, "Hey man, I got clearance to play. I got clearance to shoot again. Meet me at Brandeis." And I was like, "I'll be down there, man." And I literally drove. If Jordan's Furniture wasn't so far away, I probably would have been there that day and may have been able to maybe get him over to the hospital quicker. But I showed up at home, and I turned on the TV for a second, and there it was, man. He had collapsed and was at the hospital, and it was the first one there. And ML Carr was there, and they were trying to save him. And it's just like I look back now and years later, and I just think he would have been one of the greatest players. I mean, he would have been a great Celtic, and he would have won championships. And it's unfortunate.
Like you see Reggie Miller and what happened to him in the mid-'90s, and he kind of ascended, and he became kind of the Jordan challenger.
Yeah.
Reggie used to kill Reggie Miller.
People don't remember
Reggie
him.
Miller could not even touch him in those games, and I really think that would have been Reggie's spot as the Jordan rival.
They would have battled, that's for sure. And I think when you look at their frames, similar frames, Reggie to me just, I mean, there's two Reggies. We're talking Reggie Lewis. In my case, he just had longer arms, just had more elevation on his shot, and you couldn't get to him. Just couldn't get to him.
I was at the game when he collapsed against Charlotte, which was
You were
'93.
there? Yeah.
And
you just didn't know what happened.
Well, the thing is, he came out. He was out of his mind. I think he had like 12 points in the first 4 or 5 minutes.
Yep.
And watching, thinking like, he's gonna have 60 points. Like,
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, he was sitting on the floor with his hands. And then he walked by. We sat in the tunnel. He walked right by us. He kind of seemed out of it.
Yeah.
And we were like, that was weird. Like, did he pull I thought like he pulled a calf muscle or something.
Yep.
But it was tough. I mean, you were there basically for the last hurrah of that whole Big Three era, and then
every year I watched.
Then it flipped.
Rookie year, Big Three, Larry retires. Next year, Kevin retires. Robert Parrish leaves and goes to Chicago. They tear down the Boston Garden. Reggie Lewis dies.
Yeah.
Dominique comes in. Xavier's there. We struggle for a while. Sherman Douglas.
But
and
somehow
then Rick
almost beat
Pitino.
Orlando.
Yeah, I know, right, of all things. That was a Shaq team. I'll never forget that. They went to the finals, and we almost
had a 1-1
nipped
lead.
them. We almost nipped them. And then I was the captain. I always say I was the captain of the Titanic. The year we won 15 games. And
I went to a lot of those games.
God bless you.
I did.
Thank you very much.
My dad had the season tickets. I'm living in Boston. He's like, I don't want to go. I'm like, I'll go. I'll take a date.
We won 15 games, and we were trying to get Tim Duncan. Remember that? We had 2 picks. The third, and we're thinking with 2 picks, 2 high picks, you're going to get maybe 1 or 2, and we're going after Tim. And unluck of the Irish, I guess, we get the 3rd and the 6th pick, the 2 worst picks we could have possibly gotten. Rick Pitino comes in.
I still blame myself. I was dating some girl, and she had a summer house in the Cape, and I went to watch the ladder with her instead of my dad, and I still feel like I swung the ladder. Like the basketball guys were like, what are you doing? You're not going to marry this girl. Watch it with your dad. This is the biggest moment of the decade.
That's why I wasn't a Celtic for
that's...
Rick Pitino came in, and...
Well, you were lucky. You got out in time with Pitino.
Looking back, it ended up being really fortunate because I bled green, man, and didn't think I'd play anywhere else. I'd lay on the floors and look up at the rafters and see all the banners.
I'm going to give that to you.
They gave me a lot of love, and they still give me a lot of love. They really do. And hey, man, I was blessed, man. Red Auerbach drafted me, of all things. He drafted me, booed. I got booed on draft day. And
I remember that.
Yeah, I got booed, and he had to stand up for me. He had to literally go, "Hey, whoa, you guys don't know this guy, but."
Did we take you over somebody the fans wanted?
No, I had a really terrible Final Four game. I was 5 for 25, and we lost, and they thought, and Big East, Dave Gavitt was a Big East guy, and they wanted probably a Big East player of some sort. And,
that's stupid.
Yeah, but it ended up he stood up for me, man, and it ended up.
Do you think we should do a Grantland oral history on that 15-win Celtic team? Because that was an unbelievable season.
Oh my gosh, 9 guys went down and had surgery that year.
Antoine was playing center.
Todd
Day was like this, shooting everything.
ML gave him free reign to do whatever he wanted. I think really set him on course to really.
Yeah, it was probably
on the wrong course because he just had he wasn't reined in. You couldn't tell him anything.
He was like a 15-year-old high school freshman who was allowed to go out every night till 4 in the morning.
There you go.
Yeah. It's like, Antoine, just shoot from anywhere.
Anywhere. And he took advantage of it. Yeah, but we should look back on that. Maybe it'll purge some of my scarred memories.
Todd Day's shot selection was rough.
But he had a couple like 40-point games.
Yeah, I think he had the house record.
Yeah.
He had like 53 in the new.
It was a strange year, man. It took me. I was slow on the uptake that year, man, because I was a captain, and it was the Celtics. You played every game to win. You played every season to win championships.
That was tough.
And I went out every night, and it was, we'd be up in three quarters. I'd have 34 points in three quarters. I'm thinking, oh, we're gonna win.
Right.
Then we go sit down, and AC Earl were checking the game. Different guys are jumping. What are we doing? Like,
Where'd that guy come from?
What is this about right now? Like, we have a 5-6 point lead. Like, we're gonna lose the lead. No disrespect, AC. But it's just
right.
Come on. And then you realize. I think I picked it up at about game 73. I went,
this is what's going on.
Something's happening here, and it just
I remember I went to the Detroit game when I think Grant Hill became the first guy ever to score on the 0 point whatever seconds left. They did the little thing, and it was like a tip play, and it went in. It was like, wow, we just created a new way to lose. I've never seen that before. It's a new one. Is that legal? It is. We lost. New one. So then you go to the Lakers.
I go to the Lakers, and the way I got there, oddly enough, was, and you mentioned Rick Pitino coming in. Rick came in, and I went and sat down because I was the captain, and he wanted to know what happened.
Yeah.
So you can't really explain what happened, Rick. I mean, we were really bad, and we had guys going in different directions, and we were trying to make it happen. But he said, look, well, you're the captain going forward, and I want you to be here. And
then he traded you a minute later.
Hold on. So we negotiated a contract. He'd gone out to L.A., met with Arm Tellem. We needed a big guy. We lost Tim Duncan. We didn't get the number one pick. So he signed Travis Knight, who was opposite Shaq.
$20 million.
Who had an amazing $21 million. Told him on Friday, don't keep this under wraps. I'm going to go back and sign Rick because I got to get him under contract before we bring you in. And we negotiated on the weekend. It was like a $33 million deal. And I literally woke up Monday morning to go get a haircut. I was on the way to get a haircut to do the press conference. My agent called and he said, hey, you just got renounced.
Yeah.
And once again, my slow on the uptake thing. I was like, what's that mean? What's renounced? I've never heard anybody. I've heard people get waived, but what does renounce mean? And he goes, yeah, you just lost all your bird rights. And so I had literally become a free agent, and I couldn't re-sign with the Celtics for 90 days. So Red Auerbach called me up and he said, hey, Rick, sorry about what happened. We really got caught in a pickle. We need a big man. We're going to take care of you. We want you to wait 90 days, and we'll sign you as soon as we can, and we'll actually pay you more. And I was thinking, at that point, I was so crushed. I was like, I just was hurt. I was just thinking to myself, how do you just renounce me? Like I bleed green. Like I'm a Celtic. Like, how did this happen? And so I was really upset with Pitino, and I went and sat with him and. I wanted answers, man. And he was like, look, I'm sorry we had to do this, but we want you to come back. I was like, man, I can't trust you.
He's a used car salesman.
I can't trust you, man. And
he's like, Rick, we love you.
Jerry West was called the next day, and I think I could only make $1 million that year, which is a lot of money, but I was
not what
what I could have made. And I went on the circuit, Knicks and Hawks and the Lakers. I thought, what, I'm going to get as far away as I can, and Shaq was there, and I was the mini GM and trying to figure, I think Shaq's going to win some championships, man.
That was probably a smart
I'm going to go chase.
Assumption.
I'm going to chase that, be a part of that team, and that's how I ended up a Laker.
Pitino was unbelievable. It's like we traded Chauncey after 50 games.
And Chauncey goes on to be.
I've told this story before, but he had this show, the Bob Lobel show. He was on Sunday nights.
Bob, that's right.
And they were like, well, what about, you gave up on Chauncey? And he's like, we didn't give up on Chauncey. We thought he was fantastic. And I'm sitting at home, I'm like, you just traded him after 50 games. You thought he was fantastic.
That's a quick hook.
But it was just, that was who he was. He's saying one thing and doing another thing. And after a while, you just realized he was just full of crap.
It was just something that I'm grateful for now that it happened the way it happened, but I always still wish I would have gotten one in green, I wish I would have won one in green.
Why haven't you have you written a book?
Not yet.
Why haven't you written a book about your Laker years? That could have been a 220-page bestseller.
Well, I mean, like Phil has written a couple of them, Shaq and Kobe have
Phil
written
just keeps writing the same book.
Because there's still so much to tell.
Yeah.
I keep reading them going, oh, he left a lot out.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot to still tell. But you're right. Yeah. Outside of maybe not being a writer myself, but I'd have to be fortunate enough to sit down with someone that is brilliant enough to write a great book. And
when did you really start to get worried about the Shaq and Kobe thing?
I think we were always on edge. We were always on edge about it because they I think got off to a poor start from day one. Kobe is a strong-willed individual, two alpha males in the area of basketball, and from that standpoint, Shaq had he's only had his own team. Orlando was his team, LA was going to be his team, and Kobe only wanted his team.
Yeah.
And so they were going to butt heads, and we, I was the third captain between, Phil put me in the middle of those two guys, and so I was a tri-captain with them, and it was interesting trying to, be authentic with each one, and really be truthful about what was going on, and at the same time, though, not play a favorite. Because, for a number of the years, they did not get along. They didn't like each other. But at the end of the day, they needed each other. And they would move in and out of a healthy respect for what each one did. And then within 3-4 games, it would shift. But they were competitive. And I think that's what kept us going. Brian Shaw, Derek Fisher, Robert Horry.
You guys had
Harper,
great veterans.
Yeah. And that's what I think is missing in great teams. These young teams that have a lot of young talent, quite frankly, have too much youth, and it's the potential's there, but they need to be supported with.
Seems like Oklahoma City got that.
They got it. They figured it out, and I think that's why they keep bringing Derek back. And I think Nick Collison's been brilliant that way. Perkins, his scowl alone, I think, just kind of polices.
He could have been a 15th man on that team.
Yeah,
maybe a little comeback.
Yeah, a little comeback.
Shoot some threes in the corner.
Hey, look, if Derek's doing it at 40 years old.
He's actually having a good season.
There you go. And I think he has a thing with Kobe. I think they're trying to outlast each other. I think so. They came in together to fight to the end. Who's going to be the older?
I'm not retiring. You're not retiring. Right. I don't know how long this Kobe thing goes.
Yeah.
But how long do you see it going? I can't imagine him just saying, "I'm not good enough anymore. I should quit."
Right.
He'll be like a boxer, right? He'll just keep playing.
I really think there's something left out there for him that he's still chasing. Now,
the scoring record.
He'll never admit it. Other people don't believe he'll get there. I saw him 2 years ago, and he told me he was leaving the game. I didn't believe him then.
Yeah.
Now he's signed on for 2 more years. I thought he was going to sign on for 4. He kind of dropped that hint when he told Dwight, "I'm playing for 3-4 more years."
Yeah.
I still think he's playing for 3-4 more years.
I do too.
I think he'll pass Mike in scoring, but I think he still believes there's definitely a 6th championship out there for him. And I think it's going to maybe be harder for him to get that as a Laker, but I don't think he'll ever leave, so I think he'll try for another 4 years as a Laker.
In 2003, you guys got beat. Duncan was the best player in the series.
Yeah.
In 2004, you kind of left that title on the table.
We sure did.
Karl Malone got hurt, but do you feel like that's a lost title?
I don't want to diminish what Detroit did, because they were. I remember playing them in the middle of the season and commenting that I thought they were going to come out of the East.
Yeah.
I just thought they defended too well.
Right.
And they were holding teams under 70 for stretches of like 9 games, which just told me right there and then defense wins championships. And if they can hold that up in the playoffs, that they'd really be a force to reckon with. I just thought didn't respect them. We didn't respect them. We had Gary Payton.
They could show up.
We just thought we could show up. Shaq, Kobe, Gary Payton, Karl Malone. Karl Malone was hurt, but still, we were too arrogant. And they jumped on us, and Kobe hits that game winner in the second game of that series, and we think, oh, we're 1-1, we'll go to Detroit and we'll grab 2 games. By the time they beat us down in that third game, as bad as they beat us, we were shell shocked, and then you could tell in the film room, we were going through the film, and guys were just pointing fingers, and
then it just falls apart.
The wheels came off so quickly, and at that point, I thought Karl would at least try to play.
Yeah.
He was just like, "No, I'm good." And I thought, "Hey man, this is your last run. How you?"
I'm going hunting.
But he started hunting in Game 4, man. He started hunting in Game 4.
Rick Fox, come see us in our LA studio.
I'm an LA guy, man.
I can't believe we haven't done this yet.
I appreciate you having me, man.
Good stories. You were a good Celtic.
Thank you, man.
Be proud.
Means a lot coming from you.
Proud, man.
You policed the Celtic guard.
It was sad. It was sad that it fell apart for everybody.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
So I get to sign off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Podcenter at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.